Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is me, Dukect T, with a guest right here in a special Dukect Lounge. How hope everyone is doing well, feeling well, and introduce yourself, guest. I believe it is Rowdy C.
Yeah, that is correct. Glad to be back here on the lounge again, and actually really good timing, really good moment to choose to be on here. All things considered.
Yeah, and let's see, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about in the world of pro wrestling here. Because honestly, this was your first time, I believe, watching Dynamite. I believe.
Yeah, I will. I'll go set this thing. I will go ahead and set this thing up. So like I said, what would I'm sure a lot of people wondering what it would take for me to at least finally give little Tony Khan's little wrestling hobby any type of viewing chance. Basically, it comes down to this. I'm first off, I become well aware that for several months now, or weeks at least, that of course AEW finally does what so many people online want to see and put the World Championship on CM Punk, only to be revealed 24 hours later that Punk is injured and is going to be out from performing for quite a while. Now, of course, what AEW decides to do, because they have to be cool and unique and whatnot, they have to go and basically say, no, technically CM Punk is still going to be the champion. We're just going to appoint an interim champion for the time being, which ultimately turns out to be Jon Moxley. Now, this is ridiculous enough in my view, but what finally gets me to try to tune in is I just hear through the grapevine, through the interwebs, through the Twitters and all whatnot, that originally the plan is for CM Punk to return and have their little unification match at the All Out pay-per-view. Next thing I know, reports are coming in that no, turns out Punk isn't going to be cleared to wrestle, to perform, in time for this match at All Out. Next thing I know, they're saying that not only is the match going to go on, it's actually being pushed up to what ultimately turned out to be last Wednesday night on Dynamite. This is what finally gets, because I had some ideas of what might be going on, or at least what I thought should go on. I thought, okay, this I gotta check out. I at least gotta see what the heck they're going to do with this, because these events, these circumstances, something's up here. That's the only thing that drove me in. Well, here's what ended up happening. I chose not to watch the first hour of the show. I just decided I'm going to tune in at around 8 p.m. Central Time. I think I managed to get the channel on at around 8:02, right when both guys are coming out and being introduced. And let's just put it this way, if I had waited like 5 minutes later, I'd have missed the whole damn thing.
Oh yeah, it was I would say, a complete and total domination of basically of another competitor I've seen in a long while. I mean, I didn't know what was going on at first. I mean,
Well, keep in mind, I
personally,
think the last time I saw anyone really dominated like that in a championship match, no less, was what Brock Lesnar did to John Cena at SummerSlam so many years ago. That match took longer than
oh yeah,
what you ended up getting on Dynamite last night, where I think it basically comes into Punk tries to deliver one kick to Moxley, supposedly injures that foot,
yes,
then proceeds to act like the other foot is injured for whatever reason. And yeah, basically it's a few minutes, seconds, or even seconds later, Moxley completely takes him out. It's 1, 2, 3, and I'm ring. Wait a minute, it's over?
Yeah. And honestly, looking back the entire show at that point, I mean, there was some good stuff. I mean, I looked at, everything that's up there. I am still shocked. And not only that, it just like, I was like, what happened here?
Well,
I mean, I thought honestly they were gonna have the triple, the trios match, which was great, and I did love that. But this whole story just took over the whole thing
and
because it just I'm still looking at it and I'm baffled by this, and because even if everything went according to plan, I think a lot of people feel right now it just reminds people of some people like this. I mean, I don't know what I feel about this
well,
right
I'm gonna
now.
say
I
that.
don't.
Well, I'm gonna say this. Well, first off, if there's any people I do have kind of somewhat feel sorry for is this, because I know one of these people. It would be those who are actually there in person, who actually paid money to be there in Cleveland to watch this match take place, and they get that much. Like I said, one friend and colleague of ours, Alex DeCouville, he was
Oh
actually
yeah,
at that event. And just let me say, for what he's posted on Twitter since, he ain't happy with what
I
happened there.
I can
And
know.
from his perspective, I can't really blame him for that. I can totally get how that can be frustrating. Let's go on to what I'm thinking, to my own take on this. And this is just from an objective perspective as best as I can. Now, first I'm going to tell you what I felt should have happened. At least I would have done on how would I have booked this thing if this could have all been possible. First off, I think the right guy won in this situation anyway,
Oh
one way or the
yes,
other. That being said, what I would have managed to do is Moxley wins, but he wins thanks to interference from one particular guy who, let's just say, shares the same initials with Michael J. Fox.
MJF.
Yes, and that would be to set up an ultimate showdown between CM Punk and MJF, in which I think you have to do something where Friedman isn't afraid to come out and basically call out Punk for having become basically the exact opposite of what Punk was in WWE. He was the anti-establishment rebel who wasn't afraid to get on the mic and hit the biggest pipe bomb in history, calling out John Cena, Vince McMahon, his doofus son-in-law, and all that stuff. And now, Friedman, I think, would basically have the guts to basically call out Punk as being Tony Khan's lapdog. Like, he doesn't have the anti-authority situation now that he's got an owner who's giving him carte blanche and all that. Now, the fact that isn't happening, that didn't happen, it does kind of make me suspect that whatever situation is going on between MJF and AEW, at best, it still might not be resolved. And we're still going to have to figure out exactly what is going on there. That being said, there are still some situations that I think may have played into why they did what they did. I think one of the most obvious possibilities is they ended up realizing that Punk's injury, whatever it is going to keep him out longer than they wanted to. And they suddenly realized that they can't keep this whole interim thing going with Jon Moxley for this long. So we're just going to have to throw in something as quick as possible so we can have Moxley beat this guy and finally take that interim tag off him. Now, personally, like I said, I am not a fan of this whole interim champion stuff. So I had hoped to think that this whole situation would have told AEW that this is a practice they need to do away with. Nope, that's not going to be the case because it turns out on this exact same night, they announced there's going to be an interim champion for the women because Thunder Rosa is now injured. And I'm thinking, seeing that and saying they ain't learned jack or squat. Now, that's entirely possible. There is, however, something else that I thought might be coming on here. And that is the fact that in the days leading up to this match, there's been a lot of talk online and in some of those dirt sheets that I don't read, but I see links to them on Facebook and Twitter and the like. Basically suggesting that, surprise, surprise, Punk might not be very happy with what's going on in AEW. And part of me is thinking that one way or another, this might be a punishment match. It just kind of something to put Punk back in his place. That if he's going to be raising trouble in AEW now, like he might have done in WWE,
other places.
The people behind the scenes may have finally decided, look, we can't rely on this guy to have the belt. Especially if we have to wait much longer. And if he's griping now, we gotta get. If he's still got our supposedly full-time belt on, we gotta get it off him, and we'll deal with the rest later. That's the best situation there.
Also, I know LV, freaking guest in the lounge as well. He did not like it because it says something. He says, looking at what actually the whole thing, he expects something. Basically, this is a WCW, TNA, WE, like have this big match on free television, but yet you have the pay-per-view the next time. So it just seems like, he doesn't know where this is going, but if it's a rematch on pay-per-view, this just comes off as a big giant clusterfuck. And that's what it feels like. This whole thing, either some backstage stuff or something is really, really going on.
That's what I guess makes me just wonder that something hinky is going on. The fact that this was literally 2-3 weeks before the All Out pay-per-view it was going to take place, and they throw this in with reports coming in that supposedly he was unable to perform anyway, which I still don't know exactly how much of that might be true. But yeah, it just tells me that something was up. That something was going on backstage, that they're having to just. This is about as hot shot to steal one of those terms as basically you could possibly get. That this had to be thrown in at the last minute because something's happening back behind the scenes.
And but there has been some stuff happening, and I look at the stuff here about we talk about Thunder Rosa or what have you. Rumors, ladies and gentlemen, there's just rumors, and originally, and this is again rumors that the people have said about Thunder Rosa. She has some issues with Britt Baker and with Jamie Hayter, all this other stuff, because she got her nose broken with a match with her, I think was during Battle of the Belts a couple of weeks ago. And Rosa has been, saying she works pretty hard in the ring. She's a stiff worker. Then you have, this was going to originally have Toni Storm win the AEW Women's Championship against Thunder Rosa, but now with this injury, there's been, some stuff, and then you have rumors that Thunder Rosa, was like scared of, Jamie Hayter. She's just hid in the bathroom. All this stuff is this backstage stuff. But it looks like some say she has like some bulging disc injury or something like that. No one knows about this stuff, about this backstage drama. And it looks like, there is some stuff going on there. And then you have Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara and such. When you look what's going on there is that Sammy Guevara seems to be, he's been being that type of prick off and on and off stage and such. And the original plan was Eddie Kingston was going to win, but then during this whole promo and such, Sammy pretty much, they said some stuff, and then bam, Eddie Kingston punched Sammy, and he says at the end of the day, he says he wouldn't confirm the recounting the events. He said, I was wrong, and that's all. Something, that's what he said and everything. So there's a lot of stuff that's going behind the scenes going on. And then let's see if I can find the stuff here, because there's been some more stuff that's going on here. According to I think some other stuff, there was a mandatory meeting. I think Kenny Omega was talking a lot of this stuff, saying you're trying to motivate people, and it might have not gone the way it's supposedly going the way it's supposed to. And then again, these are just rumors.
It does remind
So
me a lot of that infamous, I don't know, maybe recall that infamous meeting Eric Bischoff had with the WCW stars. Came out, I believe, shortly after Brian Pillman's death, and he had made that infamous speech where he said the only people who have brought money in this company are Hogan, Savage, and Piper, which was supposedly trying to rein in the egos of Hall and Nash. But a lot of people in that locker room were upset that he didn't mention Ric Flair as well. And like you said there, it all that speech really kind of backfired. And the funny thing about that was, if I remember the books I read correctly, that was also when Bischoff declared he was going to put Vince McMahon out of business in 6 months. 6 months that date turned out to be the day that Raw finally beat Nitro in the ratings for the first time in 53 weeks. If you want to talk about irony there. But yeah, it really does. All of this, it seems like all these rumors and supposed turmoil and controversy going on in backstage in AEW situation, which I'm gonna say it really can't be surprising when you look at just how much talent Tony Khan tried to sign all in, and now he's claiming that there's just not enough TV time to put everybody on. You have to wonder, then why did you bring in all these guys if you don't?
that is true, and there's too much. And I agree. The worst case scenario is like having too few talent, and I've seen many of company and the cards and everything else to have too few.
Hello? Hello? Up. Give me a moment. Sorry. Hello? I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm not having trouble hearing you at this exact moment. My apologies for this. Is everybody there?
All right, looking about this.
There?
Boom. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yes.
That's good. Good. Well, anyway, like I said, the bench AEW had helped them during the time when most of the guys and such were out injured. Now they're coming back. This is a problem. And plus, they have so many championships, not mentioned 2 new ones recently during the summer. You got the trios titles, which a lot of people wanted. And then you got the other championship that just look at it again. It was, let's see. I mean, you look at, like I said, you got the TNT championship. You got let's see, I'm looking at the championships. The colors, like you got the world title, the women's champion, champ. You got TBS women's championship. You got the TNT championship. You got the All Atlantic champion, and the tag team champions as well. So I mean, there's so much stuff there, and I think that's the real problem. And you have too many people in too many people there. And I'm not saying they should just be like miserly and not have no one to work with, because I think more companies and everything else, more companies should hire talent that is worthy to be there. I think Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee should definitely be for AEW. They're great. And I look at the people they have hired. I like most of the hires I enjoy. I honestly think they do fit AEW and feet in their pieces and such. I think the problem right now they have, with AEW is kind of what WWE had, is that they hoarded so much talent, they don't know what to do. Even with them, they had NXT, NXT UK. By the way, NXT UK is pretty much going on the way out, and such. You got for NXT Europe, whatever. That's not going to work. You have NXT. They have, like I said, Raw, SmackDown. They had this heavy roster with people who are just never had a connect. They didn't really need a connection to fan base. It just there was too much wrestlers, and even though they have those shows, it's just like it has burnout. I mean, I used to watch Dark Elevation, and all the other stuff, but sometimes I don't have time for it. You're just like, man, even though Dark, and I watch occasionally Dark and everything, it gets a little too. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's too much. You're just like, wow, it's just too much stuff. And I think that's
And
the
it's
problem with AEW right now, is that there's too much stuff.
and it's and that and with all the supposed the at least rumors of turmoil backstage, it's really just the absolute worst possible time for them, because it's coming at a time when now suddenly everybody's talking about WWE again, because
Well,
the fact that for all chance, we could talk ad nauseum and probably have about the circumstances that led to it. But the bottom line is that now it appears that Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and possibly Nick Khan, they're the ones in charge of the company now. And whether or not you at least still there's anything significant changes have happened yet that you or I or anyone else might like yet, it's still getting people talking. It's generating curiosity and interest back into WWE one way or the other. Like I just heard reports right now that apparently Survivor Series is
it's
already
sold
sold
out.
out. And
Oh
that's
yeah,
basically the
and
fastest. That's the fastest even a major pay-per-view has sold out for WWE in a long time.
I think the reason why is because for the longest time, even WWE, again, 70, he has been, and I said this back when I still do, and my vlogs and old vlogs that I have on my little camera, I still have on my desk. I said that Vince McMahon should have been retired and left around, I think, I was like, around 2006, the man lost his touch. That was the main problem, and he's like, and by the way, I mean, if those actions didn't happen, the people would have probably they would just sell well. But I think the problem is with WE, it's like you have someone who's like over 70, almost 80 years old, trying to make a product for like for 30-year-olds. That's insane. That's right there is completely insane. And even then, I'm still worried because he is still the majority stockholder. So maybe he's just like, okay, y'all can have y'all fun for a couple months, but like when WrestleMania shows up, you better hopefully you're gonna have those. I hope you have some good plans. Those are good phone plans because I'm gonna be calling off the hook.
Well, I will say, I don't know so much if WWE is trying to cater to 30-year-olds. I think that's AEW. WWE always wants the 13-year-olds for the most part. And that's always been one of the big arguing points I've heard between a lot of people online who see, and it's probably one of the biggest, I guess, one of the more bigger arguments I have between those other guys, where you basically have people that act like wrestling should not cater to kids at all. And I'm like, it's goddamn fake fighting. It's roughhousing. It's professional roughhousing. Absolutely, there should at least be some form of pro wrestling that needs to be aimed at children. When do you think you got interested in wrestling? I'm not one of those people. I mean, I didn't start watching wrestling until I was, I believe, 23 years old. But I'm different. A lot of people.
I started watching when I was 3 years old when Hulk Hogan was like, back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of stuff. And I think that is, I do see some kids out there, and I do see a lot of kids and teenagers do watch AEW. They love that type of content because one, it just seems like it's different. I think a lot of people say they like the different flavor they have. And of course, the stars they had, I think the Punks and Jericho, Brian Danielson, you know, Daniel Bryan Danielson, that sort of stuff. Uh, you know, all that other stuff helps, and I think there is something to say for for the young folks and such. And I always think at the end of the day, you should book for that for the young, for the youth people, or
Yeah.
for the young. But I don't want to just like don't cut out the old folks though. Don't cut out the 30s and 20 years old. In the 40 stuff. Give them a little bit of excitement too, or something. That sort of thing.
I'm gonna say this much. Yeah, I'm gonna say this much. Probably the best thing WWE could do right now, if they end up, I'll say that if it turns out that Drew McIntyre wins the world title at Clash at the Castle, AEW might need to take some short, deep breaths and stuff, because they might have to.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be some swerves, and they are really dedicated to get that really dedicated for that Rock and Roman match happening.
Well, I
with
think
the
that
titles,
is
which
well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, well,
they're dedicated for that, even though, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Supposedly, Triple H has gone on saying he's not big on bringing in part-time wrestlers. At least not people like Goldberg and whatnot. Now, that tells me that, yeah, you may still be looking at Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania. But I'd be really surprised if the title is on the line for that thing. I think you might end up happening. I could be wrong on this, but I got a feeling they actually might be looking for a way to get the belt off of Roman very soon, and then still build up to the idea of him facing The Rock at WrestleMania, while allowing the championship to go in another direction. Now, if that's with Drew McIntyre or not, we'll have to wait and see on that. But now,
they need that. I honestly think it's getting to the point of the Triple H reign of terror at this point. If he doesn't lose that title soon, it's going to get to that point of like, oh my gosh, he becomes too powerful.
It's worse. It's worse than what happened with Triple H, to be perfectly honest, because Triple H at least showed up and defended it every month and whatnot, and still appeared on Raw every single week. I mean, you can say whatever you want about what went on during that time in the early 2000s. He at least did the work on there.
Oh yeah.
Roman Reigns. The whole irony about this is Roman Reigns has become Brock Lesnar, and I remember back when Reigns was facing Lesnar years ago, and Roman was going after Brock for his part-time schedule. And now you've basically got Roman doing the exact same thing. And that's probably one of the things that really probably disappoints people a lot more than anything else. And I do think that for whatever the case may be, I think Triple H would really love to get the belt put on someone who's at least going to be able to show up every week on at least Raw or SmackDown.
Oh, hopefully. And honestly, the one thing that would actually get people a lot more happier is they pretty much just have to get the money in bank. Swinging WE, get the money in the money in the bank briefcase off of Austin Theory at this point. Dude I honestly think, even with all the stuff about it in the backstage and everything, allegedly stuff and everything, I'm like, right. I do not like to have. I don't want 23 years. He's like, what, 23, 24? He should not be in the world championship picture. He should not be. He is like maybe like 5 or 6 years down the line. But you don't want to give someone that young the championship.
You got to remember exactly the difficulties they had. Remember when they put the title on Randy Orton at 25 or 24, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
To basically to show a middle finger to Brock Lesnar, who left. And then him floating around. It took years for him to get back to that type of stuff. And the one thing I think that's the issue is that he just does not. He looks lost between those main eventers. And the one thing I would say, and I know people have, I know some people might not like this. A lot of people might not like the stuff here. Is that maybe they need to give that someone who actually does seem to have care and seem to have that marketability and even has a lot more drama around him in some cases. Logan Paul, which I know people hate that because that just would scream. I mean, scream like horrible optics and such. But he does seem to have a audience. B, I mean, without the WWE, I think him and his brother basically sell out. Like, his boxing stuff actually can draw money and draw over around like 1 million or 1.5 million people want to watch him fight, whatever. And I hear his match with the Miz was actually pretty decent enough to actually got people cheering for him, which I didn't think was possible. So at this point, I'm like, hey, he's already honestly at 2 matches in, and I hate to say this, I saw him like at WrestleMania outshine someone like Dominic Mysterio and such, and I'm like, you know what? I know he's gonna not like it, but I think you have to put that Money in the Bank briefcase on his hands, face, heel, whatever. Do it, and you will actually have people talking about your product, and B, he's young. He's young enough, and he has this. He has a foundation of fans that will probably buy your stuff, even if you want to. People like, man, they can't wait to see him lose every time. So
yeah,
yeah.
Maybe look, put the Money in the Bank on Logan Paul. Perhaps I doubt I'll let him successfully cash in and put the belt on him because I don't think Triple H is gutsy enough to risk another David Arquette in his company. So I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I think that what we need to remember more than anything else is that whatever you thought that Vince McMahon had done in the last few years that had put a lot of tarnish, shall we say, on the WWE product, it's still going to take some time for someone like Triple H to clean up everything and get everything work. But there still are hints that things might be going in a better direction.
Positive direction.
He's reinstated the women's tag team champions, and it looks like they might have a plan for it. Now, personally, I'm a little bit disappointed because to see Alexa and Asuka get eliminated that quickly, because I actually like that pairing very much so. And
I'm just disappointed they brought back. I'm like, I always like this. The problem is with WE is about too many belts, and they don't know how to book the divisions properly. I'm like, until you start booking your divisions properly, they shouldn't have these belts and such. Because I remember like, oh man, the women's division and then all those tag teams are gone. They're gone, and they're completely just like either they retired or in an AEW or some indie or whatever.
Well, it just depends on whether or not if Triple H has got an idea for them, or at least bringing in people who might have some, that he might give some time to at least give it a shot and at least give some of these women the opportunity to appear. And of course, there is already rumors coming out that with Triple H running things, that maybe Sasha and Naomi are actually going to be coming back. Who knows about that?
Who knows at this point? They haven't. I mean, I remember seeing the. I think they were at like a club and everything else when they were leaving. They said people said, "Oh, we got back WWE and everything." I'm like, they didn't respond to that. So either they are just saying, maybe they're sitting back. I personally think if they want to say retire, I say go for it. They seem to be fine and happy, and that's great. I mean, Sasha still has that Star Wars stuff, and I don't think she should come back. In fact, same thing for The Rock. And then we can all talk about what's going on with Warner Brother Discovery at this point. But right now, I hear rumors that they're going to be doing some restructuring of the DC AU or whatever, the DC on film.
Well, they're having to push. They're having to push back at least the second Shazam film, just because Warner only has enough money to release 2 more movies for the rest of the year. And this is how much of a disaster that place is.
Yeah, 6 years of bad management of AT&T, and now Discovery with even more supposed bad management. But
I've said this. David Zaslav, he's making Vince McMahon look competent by comparison.
Oh yeah,
with the stuff he's just running Warner completely into the ground and having so many more rumors as to what he might be secretly be planning and all that. But
who knows? But that's another thing. But I say this, we'll get back to the point about stuff. It looks like The Rock is might be a key point of being in that DC on film thing, and you have to look back. He might be looking and saying, "Hey, I might be, Warner Brothers seems to be going this out, but this is more of an executive role. I can get more money, more power, all this type of stuff."
Well,
And
doesn't The Rock also have the XFL to deal with?
oh yeah, as well. So maybe he's like, because the last time he was in a full match, 5 minutes in, he got himself injured. So maybe that whole big Roman Reigns versus Rock match might not happen because
Well,
yeah.
that's why we would really think that if it does happen, it's not going to be for the title. I don't think, at best, I don't think you're going to see Rock start making any real appearance. Would not see making any real appearances for a possible match like that until close to around March of next year. And it might just be a one-time thing to try and spike interest back into that WrestleMania and to WWE in general, especially because, remember, WrestleMania this coming year is going to be in Los Angeles. But I think that might just be a slight tide over, especially now. Who knows what it was going to be when Vince was running things. But my guess right now is this at best would just be something to spark interest into this WrestleMania, while Triple H may be looking to reorganize everything and start looking for the next people within who he has to start who can start trying to push WWE into the future and whatnot. He's probably got a lot of stuff to deal with here. I mean, like I said, I do at least like the idea that the at least reinstating the women's tag team titles gives some other ladies the opportunity to show themselves, because now it looks like maybe their future isn't in Liv Morgan, because people seem to be turning on her now.
I blame booking at that point, because
perhaps you do. Although
I'm like, when you make your characters look incompetent, when you make your characters look like fluky champions, this is the result. I'm like, yeah, I tapped out, but hey, that's not a hero character. That's not a baby face. That's not an underdog. That's a sly weasel heel, which I'm like, no. I mean, people seem to like Liv Morgan. They seem to like her.
And that's the crazy thing. Like, you're not wrong about the whole, it wasn't a great way to book the end of that match. That having been said, I'm just going to say, I've never really understood what everyone seemed to like about Liv Morgan, and I'm actually planning on making a video about that, because a sneak preview alert, there's actually a good chance that the wrestling mark may be coming back to rowdyc.com and trying to make some videos again. So if you want to hear some more hot takes on that, you might look out for that character coming back to my site very soon. But yeah, there's definitely an issue where you don't know what he's going to have to do with the singles titles as of right now. But at least I think the very least, putting the tag teams in, and especially since we have no idea when Becky Lynch is coming back from this latest injury and everything.
Wow, man, that's a story of not just AEW, but the injury bug the injury bug was real. I mean, not just that.
That might be actually a subject. That might actually be a subject for another video I might talk about again. About
the injury bugs
and and the cause of it and everything. But yeah, at the very least, like I said, I think more than anything, not only do I think that Triple H probably thinks that the women's tag team championships were given a raw deal, more or less, at Stray, and he wants to give it another chance. Like I said, I think it's another opportunity to give a lot of the women in WWE a new opportunity, a fresh opportunity to show themselves and try to impress themselves. More than anything else, I think, especially ever since he started with NXT, it really does seem like Triple H wants to push women's wrestling more than just about anyone else, not just in WWE, but in all of pro wrestling in general. And I think, like I said,
I mean, I would say honestly, I would say Impact, but I mean, they're doing their stuff as well. But I think AEW, and it's been multiple years. Even though I say the ladies have done well, there's some good stuff there. Um, I just think that the majority of the women's wrestling is in AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, and I'm just like, man, I would not mind having seen more women's wrestling in the main stuff. I'm not saying, Dark and Elevation are bad or, everything else. I'm not saying that, they don't matter, but I think it would be nice to see some trios matches in AEW, Dynamite or Rampage and such, or maybe something like on a pay-per-view event. It'd be nice. And I wish that was more the case, but this is again the AEW's big failing. I hate this, and because again, there's so many great women they have: Willie Nightingale, Jade, Cargill, let's see, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. Hopefully, and Jamie Hayter. Hopefully, they can squash that stuff. I mean, Tony Storm, who from basically getting pie in her face or whatever, looking stupid against Charlotte Flair, to basically becoming honestly, one of the best new hires that Tony Khan did. I think that was a really good stuff. She looks really motivated. I think Hikaru Shida, carrying the company on her back during the pandemic, really, I feel like, man, she doesn't get much praise for that. Riho, one of the best, women's wrestlers there. There's so many great talent. Serena Deep. I can go on and on, but I think it's the more presentations and better opportunities and such, and it's something I hope that does. I hope it gets fixed. And one thing I wish for AEW to really get something like that is have more, more of the storylines and such and segments of women's division. I'm like, I meant like, I feel like Ruby Soho, and even though her wrist broke, she just felt like after beginning of the year and everything, she just fell off, and I hate that. I hate that type of stuff there. That if guys fall off too, but I feel like they just like couple matches, they'll be fine. But in AEW, when you fall off and you're a woman and such, you're like, well, you're gonna be in AEW Dark and Dark Elevation for at least like 6 months or whatever.
It does. There's definitely a lot of issues, and it's just kind of a crazy situation that for years, at least for the past couple of years, people were really saying that AEW was going to have to force WWE to get back to step up their game quite a bit. But
It looks like
now,
they have.
yeah, now especially with Triple H back in charge, and that alone generating more buzz toward WWE, it's really kind of a situation where, now, especially now with everything that's going on there, AEW is going to have to step their game up quite a bit. This is a real problem that I think basically the two things really happened that forced that kind of caused everything to turn around, kind of thing. The first was AEW, one way or another, letting Cody Rhodes walk. That basically, I know people might disagree with me on this, but basically, Tony Khan pulled a TNA Impact here, and I just and that woman's name escapes me, who was running
Dixie
and everything.
Carter.
Dixie Carter. He pulled a Dixie Carter, more or less. Just like with Dixie Carter ran Jeff Jarrett out of TNA. It just seems way too similar about the circumstances that led to Cody Rhodes leaving the company that he more or less created. So that was the first step. The next step is Triple H, more or less being able to assume full control of WWE alongside with Stephanie and Nick Khan as well. And it's just like,
but I look at that and I remember this tweet I saw about this, and remember this as I look and see if I can find that tweet that was treated to me and everything else. Is that it's like with it sees Triple H bringing back all these players, and since you're a basketball player, you'll get it. Says Triple H bringing back all these players and such reminds them of the Washington Wizards bringing all these players. They feel like we're bringing back the same squad that went to gets the seventh seed and gets knocked out 4-1 in the postseason. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, remember that when it was AEW versus NXT, AEW won multiple times. It just was a complete, it destroyed them. They destroyed
Yeah, but
NXT, and it was so bad that Vince. I mean, I know the health of becoming Vince was probably like, okay, we're gonna take over NXT 2.0. That's what it was. It was.
well, that to me that was kind of that I don't know if that was really AEW was probably going to win that anyway, because that's like, I mean, that's like, remember, NXT was supposed to be just developmental brand for
No.
WWE. Had they put up, I mean, let's face it, had AEW gone head to head against Raw, they probably don't win that.
That would have been the TNA. It would have been the TNA stuff back then. But I honestly think the reason why the NXT failed, because again, people seem to forget, the NXT, was that super indie. The reason why I believe it failed is because, well, it was just developmental for Raw and SmackDown, and those shows are terrible. And I'll still say that at the time, and you could say in some cases are, in some cases, yeah. I mean, 3 hours of Raw, it's pretty bad, and SmackDown basically becomes the Roman Reigns show. And if he's there or not there, it's just, if NXT is not really that, not actually making Raw SmackDown better with the stars coming in, it just doesn't work. And then with AEW coming up, it's like, well, it's like NXT, but your guys are not going to be embarrassed more often than not. There's not going to be, oh my gosh, this guy's being embarrassed or whatever. This is the problem I believe, with at WWE, even with Triple H, is that even with all that stuff there, you just like, it's a new coat of paint, but the paint, does it. It's like, man, there's still issues. You know what I'm saying? There's still issues with the product. Again, I just, going to a 3-hour Raw.
Yeah, again,
there's
still issues, but like I said, maybe I admit being more WWE guy than anything else, and I have my reasons for that. But I just have the feeling that it's still way too early. It's basically the same reason. I know I shouldn't be comparing this to actual sports and everything, but that's why I'm willing to give the Texas Rangers now more of an opportunity and give them more a leash. Now that they finally fired John Daniels as their general manager, and we've now got an actual guy who has a history in the game of baseball now running the show in Chris Young. I mean, the fact that I'm pretty sure, like, I just have a gut feeling that Triple H has had a plan for quite a few years now.
Oh, yes, I agree with that.
And it's still going to just take time to put all of that in action. And maybe I'm willing to be more patient to at least wait and see what's going on here. And I'd be a little bit more concerned about AEW now because they don't have a Cody Rhodes to try to balance Tony Khan, who, like it or not, Tony Khan is just a wrestling fan with a lot of money who doesn't really know how the whole of the intricacies of running the wrestling business goes into. And it's not like it running any of his own other sports issues. Like he's trying to call up and sending faxes or email someone to Stephanie McMahon telling him, no, you can't go along tampering with my talent. There are no tampering laws in wrestling. This isn't the NFL.
You know what? This would have been so much better if pro wrestling had trades. Just say, you know what? You want a guy? Here you go. Boom. Better.
Perhaps.
Everyone would be a lot better off with just trade. Honestly, just you know what the WWE needs? Tag teams. We got a lot of AEW has a lot of tag teams not doing anything. Send them over there, and then you'll say, "Hey, we need some women, some talent there. Trade them there. There you go. Some tag teams go, but you build up the women's division.
That's not necessarily necessarily a bad idea. However, like I said, the biggest issue is there's no overall governing body overseeing the world of professional wrestling like you have with the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball. So there's nothing to establish any type of bylaws that prohibit things like tampering with people who are already under contract and stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I think someone like Tony Khan doesn't understand. He's already running two major sports franchises that his father
and
also owns. And that's the thing.
AEW and Ring of Honor. And I'm like, and he's still talking to the people who Warner. They say they like him, but I'm like, looking at Warner Brothers Discovery and everything else, I'm like,
believe me, look, that's something else. If you're a fan or anyone in AEW, you've got to be concerned with, because on one side, it is live programming and television.
It's cheap as hell.
Yeah, cheap. Well, that, but more than anything, television networks nowadays, more than anything, they are desperate for live programming because they believe that's like the lone thing they have that can keep their operation existing pretty much. If they lose all live programming like sports and wrestling and whatnot, if they lose it full time to the streaming networks, television's done. Cable TV is D-O-N-E, done. Now, on the other hand, Zaslav himself, supposedly, as it's been said, he absolutely hates scripted programming. And like it or not, wrestling is still a scripted program. So it's really on the edge, as you really don't know what side he's going to take on the issue of having pro wrestling in his entire empire, so to speak. So yeah, I'd be on pins and needles if I was connected to AEW in any way, shape, or form as to what my future is going to be on Turner and with the television on television right now.
Oh yeah, well that's true. But yeah, that is a very interesting time. By the way, I just found a tweet. This is right here, Lucha Blog. It says the WWE returns feel like vintage Washington Wizards off-season news. Desperately trying to put back together the squad to earn the 7th seed before losing the first round 4-1. But I hope everyone enjoys it and has a fun time. I'm like, this is is it I can't find a lie in this tweet. I can't find it because that's what it feels like to me. And I know some people are like, oh, I'm like, that's what it feels like. When I look at the whole thing, is that this is the, trying to earn back a squad that at the end of the day did not connect with the fan base and lost to AEW. And I'm like, they only got one in that fourth round, in that first game, I think was the Dark Order episode, which was so bad and terrible that they had to take the booking away from Cody Rhodes. Something was like, yeah, I'm not letting you book this anymore. And then next, there you go.
Yeah,
so,
I just don't know. I think that I'm not sure if Triple H is going to try to run Raw completely like NXT used to be. Hell, just the simple fact that they've announced that it's going back to TV 14 and everything, which is and to be honest, that I'm not really I'm not all gung ho about that idea, but it does tell me that they may be willing to try something else. That being said, I'll say the one thing that I always said that Triple H has got to worry about more than anything else is how is he going to be able to handle the higher ups at the USA Network. I mean, you got to remember, throughout his entire lifetime, Vince McMahon, one way or the other, like him or not, he had to deal with those with those higher ups at USA, and there was supposedly multiple times they threatened to kick Raw off the air for some of the stuff that the fans love to see on Raw. And I'm saying the same thing. I've always said the same thing about with Tony and AEW. I mean, I watched that match again last night, even on the replay. Jon Moxley, while he's pinning CM Punk, he looks right in the camera, puts up a middle finger, and drops an F-bomb. And I'm saying, oh yeah, Tony Khan's getting a call from the Turner offices tomorrow morning for that.
Oh, by the way, they actually did get I think there was actually a congratulations actually from Tony. I think they said, let me just see right here. By the way, is I think from Sean Ross Chef from Frankfurt.com. Just put the thing here and people can see it. He says right here, Warner Brothers Discovery sent us the following last night. It says, TBS's AEW Dynamite was the number one cable program for 1849. And they seem to be very happy with it. So they probably say, hey, more middle fingers for everybody, especially for their animation division. Just
Yeah.
full on middle fingers.
Yeah, putting up the middle fingers towards them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's gonna be
But
a
that's
fun
a subject,
conversation.
probably subject for another time.
Well, that's another thing. Oh, that's gonna be a fun one. But you know what? I think we should end this lovely conversation. By the way,
Yeah, absolutely.
Of a little more of a positive note, because after all this and everything else, my hope is that they can AEW can calm down their backstage stuff, which it looks like the honeymoon period's over for like the new company. The new company smell is gone. The new smell is gone, and it's just now here. Hopefully, he can calm it down with the communications and such, and being more respectable and all that and everything. And my hope is that they continue to grow and continue to be good entertainment, and also learn to be better.
And
That's
my
my
hope
hope.
and my hope is that with someone like Triple H in charge, hopefully the atmosphere around WWE will become much more loose and much more fun. And people will stop having to be on pins and needles about what they have to say and everything, and just go out and just be able to be themselves and enjoy what they do. And I think if it looks like the talent in the ring is enjoying what they do, the people on watching and the people in the stands are going to be able to enjoy it much more once again.
Uh yes, I might hope so as well. By the way, if anyone in AEW is listening to this, sign Kylan King already. She's one of the best women's wrestlers right now, and seriously, she's probably did one hell of a job against Britt Baker and Toni Storm. She should have won both of those matches and probably gotten that fatal four the match all out. But that's just my personal opinion. Could be wrong, but hey, I mean, she's really good and talented. But that's again another rant for another time. Anyway, that's it for me, Duke CT. Thanks so much for Rowdy C joining me for this lovely conversation.
Anytime, stay rowdy, my friends.
And that is it for us. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Peace and love. I'll see y'all when I see y'all later.